Hello, welcome back to From SoftServe. And today is a special one because Dark Souls 2 now has DLSS support, which stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling, and it's made by Nvidia. And basically, it's an upscaling solution. It's a temporal upscaling solution that also bundles with it anti-aliasing, and there's different modes like performance, ultra performance, balanced, quality, and then there's native, which is called DLAA, which with DS2 lighting engine, they've had DLAA as an option, which is basically just not using any upscaling, but it's just using DLAA. It's just anti-aliasing, and it's the best anti-aliasing you can get in the entire industry, essentially. But now there's actually full DLSS support, and you can actually go right here to turn it on. I'll show you how to install DS2 Lighting Engine and enable DLSS. It's very easy. Now you might be wondering, is it worth it? Because Dark Souls 2 on its own is not very hard to render, and I would agree with that. Of course, DS2 Lighting Engine is a very modern renderer, and so it's very efficient at what it does. Here you can see we're running my dynamic shadows being turned on for essentially everything. We have upscaled textures for everything, so I'm pushing DS2 Lighting Engine harder than it normally goes in the default, like out of the box state. But you can see at the top right, I do have the statistics running, and I have 45% GPU utilization, and that's on my 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte version. And then I have a Ryzen 5700X and 32 gigabytes of memory. And yeah, I get a locked 60. Now, if I turn off the DLSS, you can see my GPU utilization percentage. Ooh, okay, there's some little bit of bugginess upon disabling it. Don't worry about it, it's early on. But anyway, you can see my GPU utilization percentage is at 56, 59%, 55, give or take. And so I do have an actual reduction in the amount of, how much that is taxing my GPU. Which of course, as you can see, I have headroom anyway, because the 4060 Ti is not being fully taxed to run this, as I figured, essentially. Now we also have AMD's FSR. FSR2 is included as well. So if you do not have an Nvidia card, you can still use FSR, and that will be superior to the FXAA that DS2 uses by default. But we're going to go back to the DLSS temporal, and you can see here we have the different quality settings, which DLAA is of course the native, where it's basically the internal rendering resolution is 100%, so it's not upscaling anything. It is literally just applying the best performance that you can, or best anti-aliasing that you can get. So now you can see my GPU is up to 60%, give or take. So there's a little bit for me to run that, but since it is a 40 series GPU, it obviously doesn't really have much trouble doing it. If we do ultra quality, you can see already our GPU percentage drops a little bit. And basically in balanced, I think in performance mode, for 4K performance mode will do 1080p internally, and then it upscales it to 4K. Now you will see some fuzziness on screen. That is actually a bug currently, with basically how it's handling, because it's actually pretty hard to enable DLSS in DS2, because basically any game that did not come with temporal anti-aliasing by default, so if it didn't have a TAA, TAA, which is temporal anti-aliasing, which is used in the industry a lot, even prior to DLSS being a thing, that was basically, if the game already supported that, that means it was using motion vectors, which motion vectors basically tell the anti-aliasing solution, from previous frames, future frames, well, really previous frames, and that's how it's deciding how to anti-alias the scene, essentially. And DLSS basically just does that a lot better, with a lot better accuracy, and it can also actually upscale from a lower internal resolution, thus lowering your GPU utilization. So it's just a nice tool to have. Now, of course, because this is being added to DS2, this also means that it will be added to DS3 lighting engine, which of course is not out yet publicly. It's in testing, but that's what is nice about that. And probably the more important thing is DS3 lighting engine is definitely more of a use case for it than DS2, since geometry complexity goes up a lot from DS2 to DS3. But yeah, so now we have that. We have on performance mode, you can see my GPU is sitting at 38%. Now, of course, you'll notice my GPU utilization percentage does not go to half, even if I go to ultra performance, which is like I think it's rendering at 720p and then going up to 4K. So it's like huge jump. You'll notice it still does not go below like 35%, but that's because I'm running OBS. And I'm running Nvidia Broadcast, which is handling the noise isolation on my microphone and yada, yada, yada. So like there are other things happening that is not going to make my GPU go from, say, 80% to 40% or 60% to 30%. But you do see a reduction in the actual performance there, or reduction in GPU utilization. I tend to play on quality because quality mode will get you better than native image quality. Generally, they've done comparisons of like 400% zooms, and generally quality, while it is rendering at, I want to say it's like 75% of your target resolution, or 80%, it's something like that, and essentially and then it upscales it to your target resolution, which here is 4K for me. But in the process of doing that, you'll actually get a little bit more texture detail in the distance and just overall clarity. So I highly recommend quality as the best option to get the best anti-aliased, best image quality, and you get a nice little performance boost at the same time. That's definitely my recommendation. But here's how you install it. It's actually very, very easy. So let's quit out and I'll show you how to install DS2 lighting engine itself, the most recent version, on the Discord, and then you can have DLSS or FSR in your game. Okay, so first thing we had to do is go to the DS2 lighting engine Discord, here we have the Discord. I will have a link in the description where you can join the Discord, and you'll see right here is beta releases LE, and this is where you can see the most recent DS2 lighting engine beta. And they actually updated it at 7:56 a.m. my time, so about 3 hours ago, or 2 hours ago, and we hit download on it. Now, I've already downloaded it, but just hit download, and we then are going to see, I had something else up over here, and let's go to our downloads folder, and we're going to see DS2 Lighting Engine V0940 Beta 32. And now you're going to see these files here. So basically, go to your Dark Souls 2 installation, Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, which is commonly in your Steam apps, common Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. Go in your game folder. One thing I do recommend doing is backing up your shader folder if you do not have DS2 Lighting Engine already installed. Your shader folder, that's what DS2 Lighting Engine basically overwrites, among other things, but mainly the shader folder because it's essentially customizing the shaders. You can back that up, but I think actually in this installation I didn't, because realistically you could just go through Steam and verify local files if you ever wanted to uninstall DS2 Lighting Engine. You could just delete your shader folder, go to Steam, verify local files, and then your existing shader folder will pop up again. So that's not really a big deal. So we got that, and so we're just going to copy these. Now, I personally am not copying the atmosphere presets or text override. Now, the reason why I'm not copying those is I already have those folders and I have my custom preset that I'm using. So I don't want to override that. But if you just want the new features, you can basically copy the DXGI, the shader, and then you can copy these. You don't need the licenses really, but and then you'll see here is the DLSS DLL that comes with it. And basically, yep, I copy those, and I'm skipping these. But if you don't have DS2 Lighting Engine installed, or if you just have the default lighting engine and you're not using any custom presets or anything, you can just copy those as well, because those will have updates to the atmosphere presets that the creator of the lighting engine has updated. But since I have my own, I'm not copying those. But basically, you just hit copy, and then you're gonna want to hit paste, which for me it was like, okay, all right, and then it override, I don't know. And basically, there you go, easy peasy lemon squeezy. You've installed it, and now you launch the game, and yeah, you go in the game. That's kind of it. Now we're gonna go to hit F1 to open the menu. Okay. Also, coming with Lighting Engine, you get a dark Bandai Namco logo, which is very nice. I also updated that with my Remastered mod. But you can see here, we have the menu. You hit F1, and you can see that you do want to make sure you have Flip Model Swap Chain turned on, which I believe should be turned on by default, I think, when you install Lighting Engine. I could be wrong, but just make sure that's turned on, as that's what's going to enable DLSS to be able to be used. And you can go under Shading, Quality, and Performance, and you make sure your in-game motion blur is turned on, and you want to make sure the in-game anti-aliasing is turned off. So we're going to go to Video, and in here you can see anti-aliasing turned off, motion blur turned on, because the motion blur is actually what uses the motion vectors. That's how they hook in, or at least part of it. I'm not going to admit that I'm a super expert on motion vectors or anything, as they're actually very complex, and that's why setting up DLSS is not like snapping your fingers, right? It actually requires a lot of information and like data sources that it can hook into to really get a good result, because you can easily get a shitty result. So this actually has been really great. DLSS temporal, this is where you can also choose the FSR if you want. There's also auto mode. I'm assuming if it's an Nvidia GPU, it will automatically go to DLSS and then choose the, I guess we still choose the preset. There's some games that will do auto, where they'll automatically, based on performance, choose, you know, ultra quality, quality, balance, performance, etc. Now you'll see the preset. You can hit default, but preset E, I believe, is the newest preset for DLSS, and it's preferable. I think it has the best image quality and anti-aliasing combo, and so I choose preset E. And then, yeah, that's it. And you should now have DLSS inside your DS2. And yeah, everything is right in the world. And okay, yeah, don't look at that. Don't look at that one character's name. Don't rewind. Don't worry about it. That was for DS2 randomizer we did on stream recently. But yeah, now we have fantastic anti-aliasing, better performance, and for me, it kind of makes, like, I could play at 4K on the 4060 Ti as is, but admittedly, this would have been even better for my 2060 that I upgraded from, where 4K was a little touchy. Even though I had enough video memory, it still didn't really like doing it. So this is actually a good instance where maybe this will allow you to pump up some of the settings like tessellation, global illumination, shadow quality, soft shadows, screen space shadow. There's a lot of options for DS2 Lighting Engine. Also with the flip model swap chain, you can also enable variable refresh rate. Personally, for me, I don't really have to do that because I tend to lock to 60 anyway, and I tend to like a very locked 60, but in case you get variable frame rate, you can actually turn on variable refresh rate, assuming your monitor supports it, yada, yada, yada. And yeah, that's as easy as it is to get DLSS in your game. And it's pretty sick nasty. And it's something that we will have in DS3 Lighting Engine once that comes out. I will cover that I do have access to the beta build of it, but I haven't really done a video on DS3 lighting engine. I think I'm waiting for another update before really showcasing that. But yeah, thank you for watching, and enjoy DLSS/FSR in your Dark Souls 2. I'll see you next time.